Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Doctor Who has had its fair share of companions over the years. Some have travelled with the Doctor for years, becoming iconic parts of the show's history, while others have had much shorter tenures. Liz Shaw is an example of the latter, only appearing in season 7 before quietly leaving off screen. But what if she'd stayed a bit longer? What if Liz Shaw had stayed for season 8? Now obviously I'm doing this to tie in with the recent release of the Season 7 collection box set, and this will be the first companion focused What If video. I'll be doing more videos like that moving forwards. Now, the reason why Liz Shaw and her actor Caroline John were only in Season 7 was because John became pregnant with her first child once filming had wrapped on Season 7. And producer Barry Letts and script editor Terence Dix weren't really happy with the direction Liz had gone in as a character. They felt like a companion's role was the traditional ask expositionary questions to the Doctor as an audience surrogate. Liz Shaw, by contrast, was too intelligent and too much on the Doctor's level for this, they felt. And I suspect the fact that Caroline John was cast by their predecessors, Peter Bryant and Derek Sherwin, probably didn't help either, as Letts and Dix would have wanted to truly make their own mark on the show, especially Letts, who had only become producer partway through Season 7's production. I do personally think all of this was pretty unfair on Caroline John though. Liz Shaw was a brilliant character precisely because she didn't easily fit the stereotypical image of what most classic series female companions would be like. Yes, she could still scream and did so, but she was also a very strong person, who was the Doctor's intellectual equal in many ways. I loved the whole dynamic she had with the Third Doctor, that they're a couple of scientists who are pretty good friends with each other and can help each other out with any scientific issues. And she was a sort of middle ground between the Third Doctor's morality and the Brigadier's more strategic military way of thinking. So the fact that she was so cruelly underused and never allowed to reach her full potential really does seem like such a waste of a great character. So I think it would be great if she had been allowed to stay on for another season. But obviously, there are difficulties with that. Caroline John might need to have a much more reduced role in Season 8 if she hadn't already given birth by the time it had started filming. If she had given birth before then she would probably have needed some time to recover and spend time with her newborn. Plus, we'd have to have Barry Letts change his mind over whether to get rid of Liz or not, which really doesn't seem very likely. The only way I could maybe see all of this working is if Season 8 had both Jo and Liz in it. Jo would be the main companion for it, with Liz having a reduced role and only appearing every now and then. This would allow Caroline John to film for the show whenever was best for her, as well as let Barry Letts introduce his own companion without unintentionally treating John pretty badly. In terms of what the on-screen explanation would be for Liz's reduced presence, why don't we just stick with the explanation they gave for how she ended up leaving, that being that she went back to Cambridge. Maybe in this alternate timeline, she is dividing her time between Cambridge and her unit duties, which is why Jo is then assigned to be a much more permanent assistant for the Doctor by the Brigadier. In terms of how Liz and Jo would interact during their limited amount of shared screen time, I can imagine Jo being quite jealous of Liz to start with. She'd be able to tell how intelligent she is and how much the Doctor values having a fellow scientist to talk to. But I think they would eventually bond and develop a good friendly relationship with each other despite their differences. But how much would Liz's presence be felt throughout the season, story by story? Well, she'll probably not actually be there for Terror of the Autons, as that was the first story of the season that was filmed, as well as being the first that was broadcast, obviously. And Caroline John might not be ready to come back to work just yet, unless she's still pregnant, but she isn't really that far on, or it isn't really showing yet. Instead, it might be mentioned that the Doctor had sent some samples of the plastic daffodils to Liz for her to examine at Cambridge, try and help units figure out what the Master and Nestine are up to. As for the Mind of Evil, I can imagine it being a similar minor, off-screen role. Maybe it's Liz who tells the Doctor about the Keller machine and how it'll be a demonstration of it at Stackmore Prison. Perhaps she hears about it from some of her Cambridge colleagues. And it's the Doctor who mentions all of this to Jo and us, the audience, to better explain why they end up going there. In the clause of Axos, maybe enough time would have passed for Caroline John to feel able to come back to work and appear in the last episode or two. Maybe she shows up on the Doctor's request after he asks for her help with analysing the Axonite. However, she is arrested by the army on Chin's instructions as he stupidly doesn't trust her due to her close relationship with the Doctor. So the Brigadier rescues her once Unit is back in charge of the operation, and she reluctantly works with the Master on the light accelerator during the remainder of episode 3. The Master finds her to be really intriguing, saying that her scientific knowledge and skill was impressive for a human. Then, once the Master reveals his true motives and the Doctor returns from the Axon ship, she has a nice reunion with the Doctor and meets Jo for the first time. Liz is, along with everyone else, oblivious to what the Doctor and Master are planning with the TARDIS, and she is upset with the Doctor when she finds out that he wouldn't ask her for her help, and that he would just leave them all behind. But she is delighted when he comes back and explains to them all what he was really up to. She might then accompany the Doctor and Jo in the TARDIS to Usarius for colony in space after the Time Lords send it there, so she'd finally get a trip in a TARDIS and have quite a decent role throughout the story. And I think she could play a sizable part in A Demons too. She could accompany the Doctor and Jo to Devil's End and then help the Doctor to recover afterwards. She would be firmly on the Doctor's side with the whole science versus magic argument between him and Miss Hawthorne. I can imagine that Barry Letts decides that she's been in the show long enough by that point, and so Liz goes back to Cambridge off-screen sometime between the events of The Demons and Day of the Daleks, and it's either the Doctor or the Brigadier who mentions this at the beginning of the latter story. All of this wouldn't exactly be a great way of involving Liz in Season 8. She'd feel a bit like a spare part at times, in a way, and her ending still wouldn't really feel all that suitable. But it probably is the most likely way that this scenario would play out, especially when you take into account of the various behind-the-scenes issues that would have been running against the idea of Liz Shaw staying on for longer. In an ideal world, I would have preferred it if she had a more substantial role throughout Season 8, and if she had possibly been the only companion for it, rather than having an overlap with Jo Grant. But I don't think that would have been possible without drastically altering behind-the-scenes factors that ran against it, which would then make the whole scenario less realistic. So anyway, so there's my take on what if Liz Shaw had stayed for Season 8. What do you think? Do you like my take on it or not? And would you have done anything differently? Please let me know in the comments section below. Anyway, so thanks for watching, hope you liked it. Please don't forget to press that subscribe button below, as well as press the bell icon at the side of it, so that you'll stay notified of when all my new videos come out. And I shall see you all in another video. So, until next time, bye bye!